Hello. It is Tuesday, March 31st. In my daily news stories you need to know video today, I mentioned the story about Vice President J.D. Vance going on the Benny Show, a podcast hosted by conservative influencer Benny Johnson that was released this weekend, but is getting a lot of attention kind of in the overnight news cycle. And specifically the section of the podcast where J.D. Vance started to talk about his belief in aliens. So basically, when asked about the current administration's progress on declassifying what they refer to as UAPs, which are unidentified aerial phenomena files, our vice president said, quote, "I don't think they're aliens, I think they're demons anyway, but that's a longer discussion," unquote. He then admitted to being, quote unquote, obsessed with the topic and said he has 3 years left in his term to basically use his tippy-top security clearance to get to the bottom of it, even talking about his past plans to visit Area 51. And he framed this whole thing, or his views essentially on aliens, through a religious lens, shock of the year, suggesting that what people call aliens are actually quote-unquote celestial beings or extra-natural phenomena that align with the Christian understanding of spiritual warfare. And then he quoted the movie The Usual Suspects, saying, quote, "One of the devil's greatest tricks is to convince people he never existed." So, if you follow me, you know that I am an ordained minister. I have a degree in Christian ministry and leadership. I am a lifelong follower of Jesus Christ. I formally left the church many years ago and consider myself now to be what I call a grassroots follower of Jesus Christ. I am not an evangelical person. I do not believe in proselytizing. I believe it actually goes against the word of the Bible to evangelize and to proselytize in the way that modern people do. Now, secondarily to that, I am someone who absolutely is fascinated by outer space. For about 5 years of my life, I covered NASA news and space news for a science website. I love reading about things like the three-body theory and learning about the different ways that physicists, astrobiologists, people who are actually studying these fields, who spend time in space or working with actual data from space, talk about and analyze the possibilities of life outside of Earth, outside of our universe, outside of our solar system, out there floating around in the broad expanse of existence. I think it is fascinating to talk about and to think about. And as someone who is intimately and deeply familiar with the Bible, there's nothing in the Bible that, for me, contradicts a belief in celestial creation, right? I think that modern Christianity has a very weak theology where we have decided to pigeonhole our perception of God into the box that matches what we need, as opposed to truly leading into the Christian concept of an all-knowing, all-seeing, all-being, all-creating, all-existing God, whose fingerprint is on all things from the start of time to the end of time. If that's something you truly believe, I don't find it difficult to accept the possibility that there is the existence of alien life. So let me give, now having gotten all of that context of the interview out of the way and context about my background, before I kind of jump into what I want to say about this topic. I personally, as a United States citizen, as a constituent of the US government, am exhausted by people like J.D. Vance using their tippy-top security clearance to go on the internet and do podcasts like they're a social media influencer or a celebrity and talk out the side of their neck, sounding absolutely foolish and ridiculous on the global stage about things like demons and celestial beings and aliens, when you are in the midst of running an administration that is responsible for the largest global cover-up of child sexual assault and human trafficking that I have ever read about in 30 years of covering sex crimes. I would love to see proof of aliens. I would love to see government records of what we may know or what we may have found at Area 51 many decades ago. But more than that, I would love to see a functional US government being run by mature adults with strong critical thinking skills, with full cognitive functioning, who care about doing the extremely difficult work of running a government more than attempting to use their couple of years of tippy-top security clearance to become a podcast bro who has lots and lots of time to be on the internet making content like an unemployed 45-year-old woman who can't get a job in news reporting, but not enough time to solve the critical issues that are looming in our global war crisis, our failing economy, our destroyed education system, the fact that majority of American adults are on the verge of eviction and homelessness, whether working or not, the unemployment crisis, the aforementioned Epstein files scandal. All of these things weigh more heavily on my mind as a US citizen than the possibility of whether or not JD Vance and his guyliner are going to do the podcast circuit, sharing sweet, juicy details from the darkest, most secret files of the government about alien autopsies. Even Fox Mulder himself would find this to be embarrassing behavior on the global stage. There's a reason that our government historically doesn't typically talk about these sort of things. As a survivor of childhood SA, the only files I have any interest in you transparently cracking open and sharing with the world are the files that expose the names of the men who have made billions of dollars off the backs of human trafficking, who have raped women and children, who have potentially been involved in things like murder, religious psychosis-based sacrifice, the slaughter of infants, on top of all of the things that are happening in the course of the US-backed genocide in Gaza. I love aliens. Big alien fan. Big believer in celestial beings as well. But when I want to hear about celestial beings and how they fit into the broader theology of my spiritual beliefs, I will go to a spiritually centered person with strong values, moral ethics to have that conversation. Not you. Do your job. Disrespectfully, you look fucking stupid. I'll see you in the next one.